your politics keep you poor? What if the most expensive thing you did all year wasn't buying a car or a vacation, but casting your vote? It sounds a little crazy, right? We're told to vote with our values, to pick the party that we feel best represents our vision for the country. But what if those beliefs, the political team we root for, are accidentally sabotaging our finances? I used to see my vote as just a statement of my values, but then I started looking at the actual numbers, and honestly, it was shocking. I saw how one single policy, something that sounds great on the news, could quietly pull hundreds or even thousands of dollars out of a family's budget. It made me wonder, can our politics actually keep us poor? Today, this isn't about who you should vote for. This is about how to think so that no matter who gets your vote, you aren't accidentally voting against your own wallet. We're going to break down the surprising ways your political identity is tied to your ability to build wealth, and how to tell the difference between a political sales pitch and your financial reality. The problem. Here's the real issue. We live in an age where politics feels like a team sport. We're pushed to pick a side, red or blue, and defend it to the death. The news we watch and the people we follow online create this echo chamber, constantly telling us our team has all the answers and the other team is trying to burn the country to the ground. It creates a powerful emotional bubble. And inside that bubble, it's easy to get behind ideas that don't actually help us financially. We hear a talking point about a new policy, and because it's from our team, we're for it. If it's from the other team, we're against it. We don't often stop and ask the most important question, okay, but how does this actually affect my income, my bills, my retirement account, and my ability to get ahead? Political parties are basically just coalitions of different groups. Their main job is to win elections. To do that, they create messages that hit us right in the emotions and our sense of who we are. But their goals are not always the same as your personal financial goals. And that gap, the space between the political message and the financial truth, is where a lot of people get stuck. Section 1. Myth debunking. To really get this, we have to tear down some of the biggest myths that keep us trapped. Myth number 1. My party is better for the economy and the stock market. This is the big one. So many of us believe this. You hear it all the time. Republicans are pro-business and cut taxes, so they're better for your 401k. Or Democrats invest in people and social programs, which grows the economy from the bottom up. Both sides are absolutely convinced they have the secret sauce for prosperity. But what does the data actually show? Well, when economists crunch the numbers, the picture that comes back is complicated. Since World War II, a lot of key economic numbers have on average actually been better under Democratic presidents. Studies have found faster real GDP growth, lower unemployment, and even better stock market returns during Democratic administrations. For example, one analysis found that between 1953 and 2020, 10 of the 11 recessions began under Republican presidents. But hold on. Before you jump to any conclusions, correlation isn't causation. Presidents don't have a magic button for the economy. They walk into the situation they're given, they face global crises, and they often have to deal with a Congress from the other party. Things like the dot-com bust, the 2008 financial crisis, or a global pandemic have way more impact than most presidential policies. The old stereotypes are breaking down too. For instance, high-income voters used to be a reliably Republican group, but now they are much more split, with many leaning Democratic in some areas. The point isn't that one party is definitely better. The point is that the economy is a massive, complex machine, and basing your financial strategy on which party is in power is a huge oversimplification. It leads to emotional investing, like selling off all your stocks because the wrong person won, or going all in when your guy wins, and that is a proven recipe for losing money. Myth number 2. This policy will only affect the rich. This is a classic sales pitch. A new tax on corporations, a luxury tax on yachts, or getting rid of a tax break that only seems to help billionaires. The message is simple. This won't affect you. We're just making the rich pay their fair share. But that ignores a basic law of economics, second-order effects. Policies almost never affect just one group. Take a corporate tax hike. The idea is the corporation pays, but a corporation is just a piece of paper. It can't pay a tax. People always pay. So where does that money come from? There are really only three places. First, the owners, the shareholders, can take the hit with lower profits. If you have a 401k or an IRA, guess what? That's you. Second, the employees can pay for it through smaller raises, fewer jobs, or layoffs. And third, the customers can pay for it through higher prices. Recent studies have tried to figure out how that split works. One analysis suggested that when corporate taxes go up, about 31% of the cost gets passed to consumers in higher prices, 38% hits workers through lower wages, and only the last 31% is paid by shareholders. So, the cost gets passed down, and it often lands on the very people the policy claimed it wouldn't touch. This doesn't mean all corporate taxes are bad. It just means they aren't free. When you hear a politician promise a policy will only hit one group of people, your financial alarm bells should be ringing. You have to ask, and then what? Who really ends up paying for this? Myth number 3. My single vote doesn't really impact my wallet. It's easy to feel like your vote is just a drop in a giant bucket, especially in a presidential election. But that thinking completely ignores where politics hits you the hardest, fastest, and most directly, at the state and local level. Think about the last time you voted on local stuff. Did you see a bond measure to build a new school? That's a direct increase in your property taxes for the next 30 years. Was there a proposition to raise the local sales tax by half a penny to pay for your new buses? That's a tax you pay on almost everything you buy every single day. These aren't abstract federal policies. This is real money coming out of your pocket. Your state could change its income tax brackets and bump you into a higher one. It could create or kill a tax deduction for childcare that saves you thousands a year. Let's say your town wants to raise the sales tax by 1% to fund a new park. If your family spends $30,000 a year on things you pay sales tax on, that's an extra $300 out of your pocket every single year. Over a decade, that's $3,000. Is the new park worth $3,000 of your after-tax money? Maybe, but you can't even make that choice if you don't do the math. Your local vote isn't symbolic, it's a financial transaction. The agitation. When we buy into these myths, we're letting political slogans manage our money instead of our own balance sheets. We tie our financial future to a political party, and that party's number one goal is winning elections, not necessarily growing your net worth. Think about it. You might vote for someone promising big tax cuts because you think it'll be great for the economy. But what if those cuts mainly help the super rich and lead to budget cuts for things your family actually uses, like student aid for college or funding for the local library? You could end up worse off. On the flip side, you might vote for a candidate promising great social programs. But if those programs are paid for with taxes that hit everybody, or with new rules that make the price of gas and groceries go up, your paycheck doesn't go as far. Your vote, which you cast with the best intentions, could be secretly working against you. You're trying to build a better future, but your political choices might be the anchor holding you back. The solution. So how do you fix this? How do you vote with your values and protect your wallet? It's a change in how you see things. You have to go from being a political fan to being a financial analyst of your own life. First, focus on policies, not parties. This is the big one. Instead of asking, which party is best? Ask, which specific policies will help my family's financial situation? This means you have to do a little homework. A candidate proposes a new tax plan? Don't just listen to the ads. Find an online tax calculator and run your own numbers. How does it change your paycheck? They propose a new government program? Ask who it helps, how it's paid for, and what could happen next. It's more work than just pulling a lever for red or blue, but it's the only way to make a decision that's truly yours. Second, think one step ahead. For every policy you hear about, ask the question, and then what? A tax cut is passed, and then what? Does it blow up the national debt, which could mean higher interest rates or bigger taxes for your kids? A new rule is put in place, and then what? Does it protect one industry but make things more expensive for everyone else? Thinking 2 or 3 steps down the road helps you see the hidden costs and unintended side effects that politicians never put on their flyers. Third, and most important, control what you can control. Here's the bottom line. No politician or party will ever have as much impact on your financial success as you do. The biggest factor in building wealth is your own habits, your savings rate, how you invest, and how you manage debt. Elections will come and go, the market will go up and down, political trends will change, but the person who consistently saves and invests a piece of their income in a smart, diversified way will almost always win in the long run, no matter who is in charge. Your energy is limited. Spending 90% of it on your own financial habits and 10% on politics is way more effective than the other way around. So before the next election, I want to challenge you to do a financial audit of your own political beliefs. Look at the policies you support and ask the tough questions. How do they really affect your bank account? This isn't about abandoning your values. It's about making sure your vote is a conscious investment in the future you want for both the country and your family. Conclusion. So, can your politics keep you poor? Absolutely. But only if you let them. They can keep you poor if you let a political party do your financial thinking for you. They can keep you poor if you vote based on tribal identity instead of clear-eyed analysis, and they can definitely keep you poor if you're waiting for a politician to rescue your finances. But it doesn't have to be that way. By busting these myths, by focusing on policies instead of parties, and by obsessively controlling what you can control, your own financial actions, you take the power back. You become a smarter citizen and the primary investor in your own life. You make sure that no matter who wins on election day, the person in charge of your financial well-being is always you. What's one political idea you're looking at differently from a financial angle now? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you're thinking. And if this was helpful, subscribe for more on how to build wealth in this crazy, complicated world.